Hi there. Welcome to our end of year review. So my name is Kimberly Wilson. I'm here with you all and Tranquility du Jour. And the idea behind this experience is how can we tie a bow around 2016 and begin to really envision and dream about what we want 2017 to look and feel like. So if you have a moment, I would love for you to go to the comment section, say a little hello. Where are you calling in from? You're not really calling in, dialing in. And then also, if you could share one highlight from 2016, because 2016, as we know, has gotten a pretty bad rap. And so I'm curious, what is a highlight of yours from 2016? It could be anything. It could be baking cookies with a friend. It could be traveling someplace exotic. It could be, simply no late projects at work, right? So I would just love to hear what is a positive, because I know many people can think of the negatives of 2016. So what is a positive of 2016? And before we get started, what I want to do is share with you one of my favorite quotes from Simple Abundance. I'm not sure how many of you know about this book. This book is, I call it like the Pink Bible. So this book came out in the 90s, and the great thing was it was rejected by multiple publishers and then became this international bestseller. So anyway, I love to pull ideas from this book because it really opened my eyes to so much in my early 20s. So I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to tell you about the agenda for tonight, and then I'm going to say a few hellos. Hello, Gina. Oh, happy first wedding anniversary. Hello, Nicole from Kentucky. I see we had Shizuka from Tokyo. Loretta Phoenix. Hello, Miss Sally. And Hawaii represented. Lovely. Thank you guys so much for being here. So anything that you would like to share, that is a positive of 2016. Again, if you would say where you're joining from and what is something that you are delighted that happened in 2016. Hello, Marguerite. Hello, Miss Sally. And when Sally, you see the little pig behind me? Sally's also a pig fan. So what I'm going to read to you is from January 2nd, which I know we are not there yet, but January 2nd from Simple Abundance, because I love this piece and I think it's a really good reminder as we think about what is it that I want to bring forth and that I want to think about and that I want to honor with regard to this brand new year. Hello, Sarah, Jessica, Sandy, Paula. I met my beautiful baby boy. Mama from the dugout in Oklahoma. Hello, I'm glad your Wi-Fi is strong enough for this. Dana from Pennsylvania. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your Friday night. Hello, Julie from California. And the idea too with this evening is to really give yourself the opportunity to pause. I'm sure many of you have some pretty exciting plans for tomorrow night, and you may not have time to do this exercise. And so what I was hoping is that we would have the opportunity together as a community to just hit the pause button and think about, all right, 2016, here's what you were all about, and then here's what 2017 is about. All right, so loving the questions. You only live once, but if you work it right, once is enough. How often in the past have you turned away from all that is unresolved in your heart because you feared questioning? But what if you knew that a year from today, you could be living the most creative, joyous, and fulfilling life you could imagine? What would it be? What changes would you make? How and where would you begin? Do you see why the questions are so important? Rilke says, be patient toward all that is unresolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves. Do not seek the answers which cannot be given you because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. The answers to your questions will come, but only after you know which ones are worth asking. Wait. Live your questions, then ask. Become open to the changes that the answers will inevitably bring. This may take some time, but time is the New Year's bountiful blessing. 365 bright mornings and starlit evenings, 52 promising weeks, 12 transformative months full of beautiful possibilities, and 4 splendid seasons. A simply abundant year to be savored. I love this piece as a reminder that we have this beautiful blank slate ahead of us. And this idea of really asking and tapping in, what are the questions? Oh, Valerie, yay! Can't wait for the mini retreat. Delighted to have you tomorrow. Hello, Miss Rachel and Eileen. So thank you all so much for being here. Let me do just a quick rundown. Like, what are we going to be doing here tonight? And I expect that we'll take about 30 to 45 minutes here together. So if you would like to set aside that time and also know if you need to go catch the door or handle something, this is going to be up on Facebook for you to watch at any time. I'll also post it over to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/tranquilitydujour. So one thing I wanted to mention is if during this process, if you have a moment to snap a photo and to post, what is your kind of setup looking like? What is your process? What's it looking like? And use hashtag TDJLive. Because I always love to see, y'all have the cutest setups, and it seems like you really put a lot into these experiences. So thank you. And I love to see the images. So what we're going to be doing here tonight, hello Sabrina from Savannah, hello Karen from Orlando, New Zealand, hello Marjorie. Oh, I'm delighted you joined. So what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through the process that I outlined on my blog on December 29th, which is yesterday for those of you who are live. Now, annually I do this end of year review. And the idea is like, how can I tie a bow around my experiences from this year? And again, it's not like because I'm just going to set them aside and put them away. It's more so that I can honor and remember all the things that transpired. And then what I like to do is create, and you can call these different things intentions, which is like a purpose, dreams or goals for the new year, right? So, and I'm going to walk you through this process. It'll be kind of a quick process because honestly, I encourage you to spend a couple days working with the questions I'm going to share and creating your spread in whatever way you do so. So I'm going to show you some examples on how to pull this together in a basic journal where you write with a ballpoint pen. I'll show you in an art journal, a small one, a large one. I'll show you in my day book, another way that is great to create. And then you've got if you put it in your planner, you've got your dreams going with you everywhere you go. And then also, one other exercise that's really simple on pulling this together is in a file folder. And on a file folder, it's just putting together images of what you want to see. So some of you may enjoy doing collaging, and that's a way to bring a collage forth with something that you probably have lying around the house, a manila file folder. So I'm going to take you through the process, and I'm going to show you some examples of these. And I'm not going to show you to start because I don't want it to influence the way in which you might proceed with this. So I'll give you a taste of this process, and then I'll show you some examples on how this process may manifest or unfold for you. And a reminder that I encourage you to set aside a few hours to do this because this is a really important process, I think, to close the door on 2016 and then to open it for 2017. You know, I also do a very similar process around my birthday, which is June 30th. So it works perfectly in the center of the year. And I do the same process of what are my highlights, what are my experiences from the past year, and what do I want to bring forth by my birthday the following year. So those of you who have a birthday kind of mid-year, this might also be a fun process for you to do. Okay, so what tools do you need? So you want to grab your journal or a sheet of paper is great. Just grab something that you can write on. Also, then some markers. I'm going to just give you a little show and tell here. So some markers, right? So I've got pens, pencils, all sorts of things here. Also, I do encourage a Sharpie for those of you who are going to be working in an art journal or working with materials, ephemera. Again, I'll walk you through that. No worries if you're like, what are you talking about? Okay, also, one other thing that is really great to have, I have to be careful because I have this beautiful candle lit and I do not want to put myself up in flames. So this is washi tape, right? So also if you have any washi tape, to grab it, because it can be really handy as I walk you through some of these different practices of what you can do with washi tape. Of course, glue stick. You know, plain old Elmer's glue stick is also wonderful. Now, if all you have is pen and paper, that's totally fine. I just wanted to share some different materials that you could also play with. A few other tools. Lavender oil. All right, so lavender oil is great because A, it smells amazing, and B, you can put it directly on your skin unless you're highly sensitive. So I like to put it on my skin, rub it in, and then it's nice and relaxing. And the reason is because this is a process, right? So I want you to be set up for this and really kind of have this nice spread where you have all your tools nearby. And of course, the one tool that I haven't mentioned that's super duper important and I'm so excited about, look, I did a blooming tea tonight. So make sure you have some tea or some bubbly. A lot of the emoticons I was using was bubbly because bubbly is so much fun this time of the year. And really, this is a celebration. This is a celebration of you and what you have brought forth in 2016. And then one last thing that is helpful. I brought out my perfume. And Allison, your perfume is en route to Georgia right now. But this perfume is a really yummy thing. So even before I got live, I like spritzed some perfume. So I'm all about scents. As you see, I've got like candle and all of this. Because we can draw in all these different smells and kind of connect to all these different senses, which helps make this experience even more pleasant. Right? So it's like, why do this on the go or when you're in a rush? Why not do it whenever you can set aside at least an hour or two? So again, we're going to have like a mini immersion in it tonight. All right, so hopefully we've got all of our tools. Hello, Maite from France. I love we have France, Tokyo, New Zealand represented, and of course the lovely US. So we've got pour a libation, light a candle, really connect to your senses. All right, so now we're going to dive into the practice and the processes. And a reminder to share your process if you would be willing with via social media with hashtag TDJ Live, because I love to see what you all create. So we begin this process by thinking about 2016. So if you could grab pen, paper, marker, whatever you're going to be working with, whatever your materials. So go ahead and grab that and have that nearby. Just going to reach for my gold pen. And this is from Jennifer Collins, who got it for me in Paris. So thank you, Jennifer. I think you're joining from Seattle. So what I'd like you to do is pull out your journal or any of these other materials or modes that you'd like to write in, your day book, your art journal, etc. And again, I'm going to show you visuals of all of this in a little bit, just so that you can get an idea. What I want you to do is begin to list what was 2016 about for you. I want you to list some highlights. How did you spend your time? Okay, this is not like clearly a breakdown, 365 days, but it is thinking like, wow, the majority of my time went to caregiving, or the majority of my time went to the office with this huge project we are working on. What are some of your inspirations from 2016? What are some of your lessons learned from 2016? What are some journeys that you went on? What are some of your accomplishments? What are some of your disappointments? Maybe some struggles and losses. It's funny because it's like losses can feel like, oh, I don't want to get into the negative of 2016, but I do feel like it can be helpful to think about what was 2016 all about for you. So just take your pen and begin writing in list form. And you don't have to start with like highlights or journeys. You just kind of begin to think, okay, January 2016, what was that about? What was happening? What was I doing? What were some disappointments? What were some journeys that I went on? And these could be travels, or these could be even like spiritual journeys. I, read someone's year in review, and they were like, I went back to therapy and I got on anti-anxiety meds. So that was his journey. So thinking about what are some things that happened for you in 2016 or to you in 2016. Whenever I did this last year, I definitely had the loss of Louis on this, and clearly it was not a highlight, but it was a very, very big part of my year, my 2016. So what is it, or excuse me, my 2015, that was last year. So what is it for you for 2016? And so again, maybe just writing 2016 at the top, and then just starting to list. Now, one thing is you're going to get through maybe 5, 10, 15 that will just flow, and then you'll get stuck because you're like, what in the world happened February 2016? So then what I do is I pull out my day book and I go back through it. And that's exactly what I'll did. I'll grab mine real quick. So that's exactly what I did as I was pulling mine together. And then I looked at the months. So the month layout, I'm just going to open mine up. So here was January of 2016, right? So I was able to be like, oh yeah, we hosted a director's brunch. I was in New York City at the beginning of the year. Oh, we went to Florida to see Garth Brooks and we took the train down. And some of these things are things that you're just not necessarily going to remember because they were so long ago, but they were important to you. And so taking the time, set that over there, taking the time to note those. And again, it might take a little bit of digging. And so this is something that I encourage you to set aside at least 30 minutes to an hour for. Another thing that can be helpful is to review your photos, right? So we keep so much, at least I do, so much of my photos are, actually all my photos are digital. And so it can be helpful to go through and look like, I forgot about this, or what about that, or oh, this moment was so sweet and so like small that it didn't show up in my day book, but it was something I want to remember. Like I had high tea with a friend at a hotel downtown, right? So those are little things that you want to put into your 2016 kind of highlights or 2016 in review. Now, go ahead and leave that page and we're going to move on. And if you are watching this like later, you can just pause me and come back to this. Otherwise, we're going to move on. And again, I encourage you to return to this number 1, which is really contemplating 2016 and honoring 2016 before you move on to this next piece. So this next piece I encourage you to think about is, how am I different today than I was a year ago? All right, so think about December 30th, 2015. So how are you different today? How are you different a year later? What has changed for you? I mean, you may be in a new city, you may be in a new relationship, you may be in a new school program. You may have just like started saying no to a lot of things or started saying yes to a lot of things, right? So there isn't a right or wrong, but just ask yourself, how am I different today than I was a year ago? And then my next question for you, and again, I encourage you to write this down and come back to it because you may have something that comes to you quickly, but more than likely, this is something that's going to require a little bit of thinking, a little bit of reflection. So my next question for you with this is, if you could go back in time, what would you tell yourself this time last year? All right, so think December 30th, 2015. If you could go back in time, what would you tell yourself? Would you say, it's going to be okay? Would you say, don't worry about it? Would you say, listen to your gut? Is there anything you would tell yourself a year ago today? So I'm looking over at my notes. If you're like, why do our eyes keep moving? So looking over at my notes. So that's number 2, right? Is to ask yourself these 2 questions. And this is really what tying a bow around 2016 is about. Again, I encourage you to spend about an hour with this exercise, with your 2016 highlights and with this consideration on how are you different today than you were a year ago, and what would you tell yourself? Because sometimes, there's this great quote in a Pema Chodron book, The Wisdom of No Escape, where she talks about we keep coming up against the same lessons, and she calls them the demons, right? The same demons, until we have learned the lesson that they came to teach us. And then they become friends on the path. And so you may notice that certain lessons keep coming up over and over again. So what would you do? How would you comfort yourself this time last year? And now we're going to move into 2017. All right, so dreaming about 2017. So you can start a new page for this. And again, you may be working in an art journal, so you may be using washi tape, you may be using a Sharpie. Again, I'll show you some examples of that in a moment. But do a little bit of dreaming about 2017. So what do you want to see? What do you want to do? What do you want to hear? Like, I think concert, of course, Garth. What do you want to experience? So as you think about 2017, it's not so much like, oh, I want to lose weight, or, oh, I want to be a better mom. Like, all these things are great. But think about, what is it you want to see? So maybe it's like you want to see the Grand Canyon, or you want to see your family, or you want to see change within some legislation. All right, so this is dreaming. Okay, so what do you want to see, do, hear, experience? How do you want to show up? So this is a really important one, right? Because sometimes we're like, okay, so I want to do this, I want to do that. It's like, how do you want to show up with all of this? And this might mean like, I want to show up less type A. I think of us DCers. Or I want to show up more grounded. Or I want to show up more present. I want to show up more connected. Whatever it is, think about, how do I want to show up? Another question here with dreaming about 2017 is, what wants attention? All right, so if you think about this time, where we are right now, what is going on in your life that needs attention? And you know what this always leads me to is the Wheel of Life, which is an exercise we often do on our Tranquility du Jour live calls, which will happen again in January. And it's also in the day book, and it's also something that's encouraged by a lot of coaches. So thinking about these different areas of your life and noticing what is a little lower than you'd like it to be. So for example, what usually comes up for people is that creativity or spirituality or giving back tends to be lower than they'd like. So maybe that's something that wants attention in your life. Or maybe it's your health needs attention, like you've been really pushing yourself and you need to focus more on your health. So answering what wants attention. Like if you were to just pause for a moment, close your eyes, and really kind of get out of your head and into your body, what would you notice? Like, oh gosh, I'm so achy, or oh my gosh, I'm so tense, or whatever it might be. It's really like doing these little pauses. And mindfulness, they're called a mindful check-in. So it's kind of like hitting that pause button, right? And then noticing, what's going on for me mentally? Like, where's my mind? What's swirling? Physically, like, what do I notice? Like, wow, my heart rate is really rapid, or I'm really warm, like I'm really revved up. Or, wow, I'm very, very grounded and calm. And then emotionally, what's coming up for you? I'm really disturbed by that email from earlier, like, wow, I'm still carrying around a lot of sadness about X. So mindful check-in is a wonderful way to ask yourself what wants attention a few times a day. And a few more things to think about as you dream of 2017. And again, I'm going to show you how mine have manifested in the different forms. This time next year, what do I want to be different? Okay, so we're thinking December 30th, 2017. What do you want to be different than it is right now? So maybe it's you want to be healthier. Okay, what would healthier look like? For me, mine's all about more plant-based, less sugar, more plant-based, less processed. So what is it for you? What would healthy look like? What would taking better care of your body look like? What would taking better care of your mind look like? All right, so think about it this time next year. What do I want to be different than it is right now? And then also one thing that is always good, and I find this happens a lot at the beginning of the year, is a lot of pausing and beginning to say no to things. So whenever we had a lot of volunteers for the foundation, I always got anxious when the new year rolled around because a lot of people would resign. It's one of those things where you come out of the holidays and you are really taxed, really spent from the holidays. And then you're like, what can I let go of? And unfortunately, oftentimes it can be a volunteer opportunity. But, I did notice at the beginning of the year, there's change. And what might that be for you? For some people, it's unsubscribing to as many newsletters that they might get in their inbox, or it might even be, rather than going somewhere twice a week, you start going once a week and you still get the same benefit. So thinking about, is there any place that you can pause in the new year and that you might be able to say no if you're somebody who says yes a lot and then ends up resenting it. And then what I want you to do, and again, I want you to take an hour for this, so we're kind of just rushing right through it. But I want you to look through these answers that you've just written out for 2017, and I want you to see and just notice, is there a word or a theme that you see as emerging? So, what I mean by that is I was doing this last night in bed before I was going to sleep, and I've been doing this really all week, and I was like, what's my word of the year going to be? What should it be? What should I say? What's my theme? And as I was looking through my 2017 dreams, I was like, freedom. Freedom is really, really big. And so, I think back to previous words of the year or themes, and spaciousness was a big one. I think I used that for a couple years. Simplicity, beauty. So what is there a theme that you see emerging as you think about what you want to see, hear, feel, experience in 2017? And no pressure. If you do not have a word, you may not get a word till June 2017. It's okay. A lot of times we feel pressure to be like, what's my word? This is my word. This is what I'm going to do. So know that if that doesn't happen for you just yet, it's totally fine. Let the word emerge organically. And I was excited last night because I was like, oh, this is obvious. This is clearly what I want. And yes, Marguerite, I've always had trouble with the word of the year. I think the funny thing is people feel as if they're committing to a really big relationship. Like, oh my gosh, I'm married to freedom all year. You know what? You could change it January 2nd and be like, January 1st, it was freedom. January 2nd, it's beauty. So I think if you can take the pressure off a little bit of it having to be perfect or just right, or that you have to be wedded to it all year, that might ease a little bit. I see this a lot, Marguerite, and I hear this a lot too. It's like, oh my gosh, the pressure of a word of the year. And it may not be so much word. It may be more of a theme, like an overarching theme, or even a feeling. My feeling is ease. I think ease a lot, right? Ease is my new thing, which honestly, it goes nicely with freedom. But think about for yourself, what would a feeling, maybe it's more of a feeling, not a word, not a theme. Emily, my therapist recommended looking at the theme for each season. I love that. I totally agree. Honestly, it could be every month too. So that's so smart, rather than committing to a whole year. And mom says, worthy or maybe pause. I need to pause before I decide or speak. Yes, that's always a good one. And I don't know if you guys remember those commercials. They're probably from the 70s or 80s, so some of you may not know these, but I think it was to bring awareness to child abuse. And it was before you touch your child, count to 10. you know, and it was like a woman, she's like boiling something on the stove, it's overflowing, she's on the phone, a corded phone, remember those? And then she has like a crying baby on her hip, you know, and it's like, before you speak, count to 10. And I love that because, or before you touch your child, count to 10. But I think we can use that really with speaking, definitely with responding to emails, text messages, things along those lines. It's like, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to sit with this one for a moment, and then I'm going to come back to it. Sarah, I think my theme is growth. Love that. I feel like 2017 will allow me some more time to explore my interests. Always a good thing. Growth, freedom, space, like that's what we want and need. And Andrea, health, physical, emotional, mental environment. Very good. Corina from Texas, my word. Balance. Balance is always a good one. Tammy, listen. Tracy, your books have helped so much. Thank you. My starting word could be graciousness. Thank you, Tracy. And you know, it's graciousness is such a beautiful one. Marie, I find it easy sometimes to forget the word as it goes on. Yes. Made my word the smartphone background. That's genius. So smart. Miracles, the atmosphere. Yes, counting to 10 always allows us to respond versus react. You know, I do love that, Marie, that you mentioned too, of having the word kind of as your smartphone background. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute whenever I show some different examples of ways in which you can kind of bring all this stuff together in a physical format. Because for some people, it can be really, really nice to actually have a collage of all these images or ideas from their 2016 highlights to their 2017 dreams, or it could be one word, right? That's like gratitude, and that's on their phone or that's on their desktop. So every time they open it up, or it's on their refrigerator, or it's on like the cover of their journal, you know, something along those lines. So you're like constantly exposed to it. Because you're right. Ideally, the reason we choose a word of the year is we want it to influence kind of like all our decision making. And if you're like, oh, what was that word? You know, and it's like May and you've forgotten, then it hasn't served its purpose. It may simply not resonate anymore. And so then it might be good to create a new one or remind yourself about it. So thank you, Marie, for that. So this next piece, and then we're going to move into a little bit of show and tell, is to bring all of this into a physical format. Okay, so I'll just like show. So whenever I started all of this, gosh, when did I start? It looks like 12/26, so on Monday. So I started just kind of writing it out, right? So just in a very beautiful damask journal, but I just started kind of writing out, okay, 2017 dreams. And then I continued to ponder. Tuesday, I was like, what are some questions? Okay, what worked? What didn't work? What were highlights? What does the new year look like if it's full of things that are working? Right? Okay, then I did some more musing, right? What worked? What are some highlights? And then I'm going to show you kind of, I put this in a prettier format. And then this is last night. Yeah, last night I'm in bed writing. And then this time next year I hope to. And then again, wrote it all out. So the idea behind this is to get things out of your head onto paper. Do it in whatever format works for you. For some of you, this is going to be great, right? Simply writing ballpoint pen onto paper. Okay, so just so you know, nothing wrong with that. That's really, really great. I'm going to show you some other ideas. Okay, so that's the journal. Another way is an art journal. Okay, so now I've got a few examples of art journals. So art journal, here's a mini one, because I tend to really add a lot of layers and whatnot. I'm going to show you some of my kind of thicker art journals. And I tend to add a lot of layers to them, and they become pretty darn heavy. So what's so great about this is I think it's like 4x6, totally portable, wonderful. You know, I take it to conferences. This is just a really easy one to tote. I even take it on art retreats, and it's just so much easier than the thick ones. Anyway, I'll show you the big ones too. So this is an example, right, of something that I did. Now here's washi tape. So if you're like, what in the world is all that washi tape for? And what I did is somebody gave me a beautiful holiday gift that had this darling polka dot gold foil tissue paper. And I was like, well, I'm so saving that. The tricky thing is about kind of bringing all this to life is you can kind of become a hoarder. So I did save this and it has been well used. And then what I did is with a Sharpie is I put over here the gold Sharpie to match my gold foil. I wrote out some 2016 highlights. So I'll just share some of them with you. Getting my social work license, going to Costa Rica, adopting Sweet Belle Star, which is our beautiful, beautiful rescue pug, going to Paris, doing more online offerings like the virtual retreats that we did, and then also the TDJ Live. You know, these used to be phone calls way back when, and so now they are videos, which just makes it a little bit more fun, right? Garth concerts, I couldn't remember how many, but a lot of them. So that is one way to work with this. And then what I can do is also add 2017. Sometimes we're like, oh, I don't really want it to be so visible. And then you can cover things with, again, washi tape. All right, so that's one example of working in a small art journal. Now I'm going to show you, this is working in a large art journal. So see what I said about how they get kind of thick and really cumbersome, quite heavy. So this was 2013 and 2014. So you'll see I did 2013 highlights, which actually that's not very many. Usually there's a lot more. And then 2014 dreams. So with my 2014 dreams, what I did is I took an image from Where Women Create Business, so a beautiful Stampington magazine, and I added it in so that I have layers. Oh, there we go, 2013 highlights, continued onto the other page. So I was like, that doesn't seem like many. Then I continued them on and then covered them with 2014 dreams. And so again, all you need is washi tape, a magazine that you're okay tearing images out of, and then a Sharpie, because you really, you know, if you write on this with a ballpoint pen, it's fine, but you probably won't be able to see it. Now a Sharpie, you wouldn't really want to write on. Even with this, I use more markers for that. A Sharpie will oftentimes bleed through, but if you're doing it over an image, not a problem. Okay, so I just wanted to show you large and small format art journal and how you could utilize that to record these questions we've gone through, your 2016 reflections and your dreams for 2017. And again, just a physical example of how mine have manifested in the past. All right, so another thing I wanted to show is the latest art journal that I'm working in. And then, so this is the one I'm going to use to pull together 2016, 2017. So I pulled an image from Bella Grace, which a lot of you may know Bella Grace. I love this magazine, and I was so excited. I got an email yesterday that something I wrote called an ode to the bathtub, an ode to Baz, is actually going to be published in their summer edition. I think it's summer, not spring, or maybe it's spring. Anyway, I'll keep you guys posted, but I was so excited. So Bella Grace, I just pulled out an image there, and get your glow on, love that. So I'm going to write 2016 highlights here. And then again, what I did, tissue paper, washi tape, and over an image that I pulled from Flow magazine. So if you don't know Flow magazine, it's amazing. It's out of the Netherlands, and simplify your life. Like, who doesn't want that, right? So that's an idea of a spread that I'm going to do for 2016, 2017 in my big art journal. So I showed you my small one, but the thing is, as you see, I can't write as much, or what I can do, if I can't write as much, is I could just do more pages. But I wanted to also show you what it would look like in a large art journal. So the next thing I wanted to show you is in your planner. All right, so here is Year's Dreams. And what I did is I took an image again from Flow, and it was a long image. So I just creased it and then sealed it up with gold sparkly washi tape. Okay, so this is Year's Dreams. And for those of you who have a daybook, it's on page 30. And so what I'm going to do is I'll do a spread. Again, you can see I kind of went a little wild with my, tissue paper. And so again, washi tape. The great thing about this is you add layers with this. And yes, I did say Bella Grace, not Glow. Bella Grace. It's a Stampington publication, and if you don't know Stampington, they have tons and tons of publications that are absolutely gorgeous. You can get them at Barnes & Noble, or you could also buy them online. And where do I buy washi tape? A lot of times online, and a lot of times they're gifts. So I love me some washi tape. I'm not sure where I got this. I think this was a gift, but it looks like black lace, which is very, very pretty. And it's kind of thick and heavy. Wide is actually more of what I mean, which, you know, because some of the washi tape's quite thin, which is totally fine, but this just like adheres a little bit better. So again, there's my Year's Dreams, and I'm going to continue it over onto here. And the reason I do this is because I want to be able to carry my dreams with me all the time. So Year's Dreams into your daybook, or if you don't have a daybook, into any planner you may have. Last thing I wanted to show you that may appeal to some of you who you're like, that's a little, it's kind of all a little too much, and I want something more than ballpoint pen and journal, is a file folder. So I'd mentioned earlier file folder. So what I did with this was from a few years ago, is I just pulled out a lot of images that I liked, and then I sealed them down, sealed them with packing tape. I'm looking over here because that's where I keep my packing tape. So that's my lamination process. So this is a really great way to bring about a visual format, right? So some of you are going to prefer, rather than writing like, went to the concert, you know, took a calligraphy class. Some of you may want to write that. Some of you may actually prefer to have images for it. And so if that's you, you could do a collage that really speaks to what 2016 was about. So you could print out some photos, do a collage, and then you could even write over them with your trusty Sharpie. So this would have been a really great thing. Like, say this is my 2017 vision. I always have like fresh produce or something in them. And of course, Paris. But what I could have done before I sealed it or laminated it with packing tape is I could have written 2016 dreams, 2017 dreams, highlights, wishes, things along those lines. So for those of you who are more visual and not so much like making lists of things, this might be a little bit more fun for you. Okay. Oh, and of course I added a bow. So that's, oh, and it's also practical, you know, because you can carry things in it, and then also it can stand up. So you can have it, like I've seen people have these, you know, just in their like living room. Just, it's like a little bit of art display, and it's also a great reminder to you what you want to bring forth. Now, those of you who are like, this is all well and good, but I'm not really into arts and crafts, or I don't even really want to write out the highlights and whatnot, for you, what you might want to do is get a photo collage app. And there's tons of them out there. Lots of them are free. And then what I've done in the past, I love to do this, is to pull together maybe a few images from each month, you know, so like, what are some highlights from January? What are some highlights from February? And then I pull all those in and I create a huge collage. And then it's just like, it's a sweet way. You could give it as a gift, and it's also a way to remind yourself, like, again, if you wanted to do a screensaver, maybe it's going to be a collage not of things you've done, but a collage of things you want to do. Like, again, say the Grand Canyon was on your list of what you want to see, you would have an image of the Grand Canyon. Yes, Marguerite, collages, I always push back when you suggested them. You know what's funny is people who push back with doing this on my retreats, they're always the ones who I can't get to stop. So I love that. Hi, Mary, great to have you. So again, so these are just the ideas, right? So number one, reflect on 2016. What happened to you? What are highlights? What are disappointments? What are losses? What are lessons? The second thing is to ask yourself a few questions about that. And I listed those as, how are you different today than you were a year ago? And if you could go back in time, what would you tell yourself this time last year? Next is dream about 2017. So really get into the senses, like, what do you want to smell? What do you want to feel? How do you want to live? You know, like, how do you want to show up in the world? And just notice as you're writing all this out, do you see a theme, a word, any sort of a feeling emerging? And then last bit is to bring it to a physical format. So your physical format may simply be your journal. That is totally fine. That might be your manifestation, ballpoint pen journal. However, if you want to do more, you could do the art journaling ideas that I showed or the collage ideas that I showed. Now, in summary, I wanted to mention that, sometimes at the close of a year and the start of a new one, it's like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, life's going to change. And then by January 3rd, we're like disappointed because we failed. Like maybe we didn't get up at 7 a.m. as we had hoped to, or we didn't go to the gym or whatever. And so what I want to remind you is let these be inspirations to help you bring forth what you want to bring into the world. So rather than berating yourself or being like, oh, I failed, just remember, I love this reminder. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back constantly. We're never in this sort of perfection, constantly moving forward. We need the pause button, and we also need the ability to recognize that we're going to have some step backs. And I love this quote. This is by Shizuki, who is a Zen Buddhist monk who is kind of credited with bringing Zen Buddhism to the U.S. He says, "You're perfect as you are, and you could use a little improvement." Isn't that great? So you're perfect as you are, and we could all use a little improvement. All right, so keep that in mind as you're going through and penning and putting images to the 2017 dreams and hopes and wishes and intentions. You're perfect as you are, and you could use a little improvement. We all could, right? So if you would, in closing, if you would kind of head over into the chat box of sorts, the comment section, I guess is what it's called on Facebook, and share any takeaways from tonight that are going to help you move forward. And if you're willing, maybe a 2017 dream. So what is something that you dreamed of for 2017? And as you're doing that, I'll just mention to you a few of mine. So opening private practice for clinical social work, teaching my weekly class at Tranquil Space, getting my veterinary social work certificate, going on a silent retreat, reading 24 books. So this year I've done 22 and I'm like determined because my goal was 24 through Goodreads. And so I'm like super determined. I'm like, I want to do 24, which is, you can probably do the math, it's 2 a month. And so that's my goal for next year. Personal and professional dreams, like really kind of getting clear of that. Eat less from a box or a can. That's what I had today is Amy's spicy chili. So eat less from a box and eat more plants. Be a better friend and partner. Tim will appreciate that one. Revamp my e-courses, create and release Daybook 6.0. So anyway, so those are just some ideas of mine for 2017. So again, if you would share over in the comment box any of your takeaways from tonight, and if you have a 2017 dream, would love to hear it. And Maite, watching you live is always an inspiration. Thank you, Maite, and thank you for joining from France. What time is it? It is like 3 a.m. Marie, love the concept of looking back at myself a year ago today. Yes, in addition to looking ahead. Many lessons learned. Thank you. Thank you. And Jessica, 2017 dreams, defend dissertation. Woo, that's a big one. Thank you. So one thing I wanted to mention is January 12th. That is our next Tranquility du Jour live. And you can sign up for that at KimberlyWilson.com. It's very similar to this. It's just not on Facebook. It's a YouTube link that I send to everyone in advance of the event. So if you'd like, it's a free event. So if you'd like to sign up, you can do so at KimberlyWilson.com. You'll get the link. And Tammy completing aromatherapy certification. Very cool. Daily yoga practice, even for just 5 minutes. Honestly, to me, even if it's just one pose, even if it's just downward facing dog. What is a veterinary social worker? Well, Tracy, I actually started a blog post about that a few months ago and I haven't finished. So I'm going to come back to that and I'll give you some inside scoop on it. Art journaling, freelance writing, editing career, working on a literary blog. Well, that sounds super fun. Definitely let us know what that is. Alana, congrats on LCSW. Thank you very much. That exam was no joke. Middle of the night. I'm going back to bed after this, Maite. Thank you. Thanks so much for getting up in the middle of the night for this. Being a better partner. You copied mine, Tim. Tim's joining from the cabin. He and the pets are all out there. I came back a day or two early, so I love that. Carrie, collaging our word of the year on a file folder is brilliant. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like that. It makes it too, like, you know, it's easy. It's portable. Who doesn't have like a file folder probably lying around? Congrats on LCSW. Huge. Thank you, Christy. Published new journal article. Finally starting a blog. Do it, Catherine. 1 year of therapy practice in October. Paula, congratulations. I mean, if you need any help or resources, thank you. I might be in touch. Nikki, I'm so bad at journaling. I love the photo collage idea. That's my takeaway. And dreams for 2017 is to keep a journal. Focusing on self-care. Pass the upper level French test. Yes, Shizuka, you need to so that you can go to Paris with me in 2020. We've already planned this, everyone. We're like, okay, 2020, Costa Rica. Hello, Jen and Christine from Seattle. Tell people vision. Yes, yes. As Jen knows, the vision boards are quite powerful. Yes, thank you. I love that. So if you have a moment, just a reminder, if you would post your photos using hashtag TDJ Live, you can send that to me too if you would like to. I always love seeing what you guys are doing, what you're creating, and it doesn't even have to be from tonight, because hopefully you're going to sit down, you're going to rewatch this, you're going to really give yourself some time and space to reflect, because I kind of threw a lot at you, and I want to make sure that you give yourself the opportunity, right? You really set the stage. You've got your candle. This freaking candle, rose, and you have your candle, you have your lavender oil, you have your tea or bubbly, you have friends, as Jen and Christine are doing this together in Seattle. So have whatever is going to help you bring forth what you want in 2017. In closing, I want to read to you a quick piece from, hey, this is one of my other favorite books. And in the blog post from 1229, I put a link to my podcast interview with her. This woman is amazing. So she has this whole thing around a year-end ritual. The process is very similar to sowing seeds. When you plant a garden, you don't sit and stare at the seeds until they sprout. You know that some will germinate and some will not. But it is not up to you to make them grow. All you can do is set the conditions for their growth with good soil, adequate water, and the right amount of sun. In exactly the same way, all you can do for your own unfolding is to set the conditions by slowing down a bit, right? So that's the good soil, giving yourself the gift of your own presence in your life. That's the water. And meditating regularly to help open to more of who and what you really are. That's the sun. Isn't that beautiful? None of this can take place, however, without sowing seeds. And that's what this exercise does, this end of year review. And while you are sowing seeds during this process, you can be enjoying the fruits of the previous year's harvest at the same time. Isn't that beautiful? So again, that's from Not So Big Life. This is one of my most recommended, most powerful books. I read it in 2010, changed my life. I continue to reread it. You can see it's quite haggard. And the subtitle too is Making Room for What Really Matters. Like, who doesn't want that in the new year, right? Yeah, so thank you all so much for being here with me tonight. It is a total treat. I look forward to seeing your photos. Please keep sharing takeaways. You can always reach me, Kimberly at KimberlyWilson.com. You know, Valerie and a few of you who are on here, I'm going to see you tomorrow at the Tranquil Space Mini Retreat. And in the interim, I wish you a phenomenal conclusion to 2016. And I really hope that these 2017 seeds get planted. And the way you do that is by writing them, reflecting on them, thinking about the soil, the water, the sun, and then ultimately SMART goals, right? So action steps, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So thank you all so much for being here. I hope you have a phenomenal, phenomenal conclusion to 2016 and a joyful welcome to 2017. Namaste.